Hi everyone, welcome back to another lightsaber video. This here is a resin prop. It is the Luke Skywalker Return of the Jedi R2D2 resin stunt. I know it's a bit of a mouthful, but this has recently been done by RPK Customs. I'll put a link in the description below. He's currently selling these. He makes them from resin. He has painted this. He'll be offering them either painted or unpainted, up to your preference. I chose to go with a painted one. In fact, I think I was the first person to message him about them as soon as he revealed this. I quickly messaged him and said, yes, I'm very interested. I'd like to buy one, please. And he said, well, you can have the prototype, the one that I just kind of displayed, because you're the first person to contact me, so you can have it if you want. It's not perfect, but if you want it out, you can have it. And I said, yeah, absolutely, great. I mean, Ryan is a fantastic guy, very, very nice, really helpful. So I said I quickly jumped on it. I took it, and yeah, it just arrived a couple of days ago. So I'm just gonna talk a little bit about this prop. This is a prop that was used. It was fired from R2D2's dome, the very first lightsaber that you see, in fact, in the movie, pretty much. The one that comes out of R2's dome and launches up into Luke's hand. It had to be made of resin for that purpose, presumably, because it needs to be light enough to be kind of shot up by some motor or something. So it couldn't have been made of metal. It's not the same lightsaber that, so in the next scene when Luke kind of grabs it or catches it and lights it, it's definitely not this one. That will then be the Yuma. The Yuma is the hilt that Luke uses during that whole scene to fight the bad guys on the skiff. But the one that actually launches from R2's head is made of resin. And you can see they all kind of have a similar paint job. So a similar appearance. But here you can see there's elements on it that look a little bit more like the V3. So presumably they modeled this to look like the V3. There's a V3. That was the dueling stunt saber, with the one with the long blade that he fights Vader with. You can see that seam there in the neck. You can see a Graflex clamp clearly with the holes there. It even has sort of a clamp card, a Graflex lever, that upside down clamp with the circle cutouts. It looks exactly the same as a V3. So they definitely used the V3 to model this resin stunt based on it. The Yuma has a kind of a different story. It was machined from scratch. I think it was machined to kind of look also a bit like the V3, but since it was machined and not made of resin, they probably took a little bit more liberties. I mean, they couldn't possibly machine a clamp, so they just machined it with a kind of a control box and this false lever. So yeah, the Yuma's a different story. I won't go into it too much, but anyway, this looks mostly like the V3. There are only two publicly available reference pictures of this, which I'll put on screen. One of them is just from sort of this angle, and one is sort of like that, where you can see the pommel is hollow from the bottom. That might be because something needs to be kind of inserted into it to kind of propel it out or something, who knows. But yeah, I'll just take a closer look. I think Ryan's done an amazing job with this. I don't know, he said it's not perfect and there's some bubbling or something, but I can't see anything. It looks good to me. I really like that the white of the resin is kind of coming through. This is the Graflex stamping. lever and the clamp card, which is interesting that it's kind of facing the wrong way, which leads me to believe that the V3, because we all know how the V3 looks nowadays, and they've changed it in post-production. But during production, again, we just don't have enough good images of the V3 that's used in the duel. So presumably, if they had this as a template and they made the resin prop to look like it, we could probably kind of conclude that the V3 during production looked a little bit more like this. So it would have had a standard Graflex clamp card like this. Let me grab one. Something like this, but upside down with the thin traces kind of facing the lever. So presumably during filming, it had that card. They only changed the V3 later to kind of match the hero one. So yeah, interesting. I don't know why it's so sort of cracked and beat up here, presumably from handling, parts of it chipped, but it was like that. I mean, you can see from the reference pictures, it's clearly sort of cracked like that, because you could see it from that angle, almost, and you can see a large chip here. I mean, Ryan only had 2 pictures to work on, so I'm sure he took a little bit of, he had to kind of use his best judgment for the rest. Here you can see like that seam line that's present in the V3. The V3 was made from a bad cast. I mean, this isn't a seam line because it's machined, obviously, but I just painted over it to make it look like there's a seam. Yeah, he's done a fantastic job. And these are cheap as well, you know, because it's made of resin. It's just a display piece, but it's so cool. Just to kind of complete the Luke Return of the Jedi collection, I really wanted to have one. There is one more resin stunt used in Return of the Jedi. If you picture that skiff scene where he's fighting the bad guys, at one point Luke jumps over to the side of the sail barge, and on the side of his belt you can see there's a lightsaber hanging. Well, again, it's not the Yuma that he uses to fight the bad guys. It's definitely not the V3 that kind of appears much later on in the movie. It's not the V2 that he's got most of the time in that movie. Again, it's a resin prop, and the reason it's resin is presumably because it's lighter. Again, if he's doing that kind of action scene where he's jumping and kind of holding on to the side of the sail barge, if something is big and heavy, it could injure him. It could hit his sort of leg or hip or something and injure him or fall off. So presumably that's why they made a machined, not a machined, a resin one for that scene. It's not the same one as this though. That one does have some sort of a D-ring, obviously because it's hung on his belt, and it has a little sort of emitter nipple like this one. But it does look similar. And that one, no one has made yet, but I did talk to Ryan about it, and he said he's going to see how this one goes, if there's enough interest and things like that. It is an idea for the future. You know, it's always tricky when you do the first run, because you don't know how well it's going to be received, what sort of demand there's going to be for it, the process, the kind of the logistics of it, the cost and things like that. So I think hopefully if it's a successful run, and I do wish Ryan the best, you know, if he does well and this is met with a lot of kind of enthusiasm from the community, he might start doing the second one in the future, the other one with that's the sail barge prop. So yeah, there's not a ton to say about this, but it's just an interesting little prop that was used during that one shot in the film where R2D2 fires it up into Luke's hand, and then we never see it again. There's way too many Luke hilts in Return of the Jedi. I mean, resin prop, V3, we got the Yuma, we got the V2, still a, I said, so that's what, 1, 2, 3, 4. I see you have constructed a new lightsaber. There's a V1 Hero. What else? The other resin prop that I talked about. Yeah, that I think there's 7 or 8 at least that I can count. Yeah, sort of V1 Hero. I see you have constructed a new lightsaber. Yuma, V2, V3, both resins. Yeah, I think that's it. I think it's 7 that I can remember off the top of my head that appeared in Return of the Jedi. So it's crazy. They're all meant to be the same one, but there's always differences. Anyway, I hope that was an interesting little video about this prop. I will put a link in the description below if any of you guys want to grab one of these while they're still available. I'll put a link as well to Ryan's video where he explains a little bit more about this. Feel free to message him with any questions or things like that. So yeah, thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.